Hello out there to all of my fellow gold diggers. This is your girl Rita coming to you with another video. I am doing another review on the Netflix docuseries called Money Explained. This is episode 3 where we are talking about student loans. Now, if you have been following me for some time now, you know this topic is very near and dear to my heart because I owe a lot of money in student loans and I have some strong opinions about college as well. So yeah, we're going to get into all the stuff. We're going to talk about how student loans came about, how the student loan debt is affecting Americans today, the tactics that schools use when it comes to getting people in and using the student loans, and how the student loan servicers, the people who are holding your student loans, some of the things that they do as well in regards to student loans. Okay, so we're going to get into all of it, but I highly suggest you check out the documentary. It is very informative. Now, before we get into the video, as always, if you enjoy this content, please feel free to subscribe to my channel and make sure you like the video. The likes really help out more than you know. I have a new goal where I am trying to reach 500 subscribers, so I would greatly appreciate your help to help me get there. Also, make sure you follow me on IG at Gold Digger Chick. There you'll get more regular updates and content from me all about personal finance and how you can improve your finances, as well as me sharing my journey in personal finance. All right, we got a lot to cover, so let's just go ahead and get into it. And I have my notes here too because there are a lot of facts and stuff and I want to make sure I get everything correct. So currently, at the time I guess they put this out, it was, and this docuseries came out like last week. So there is $1.2 trillion of student loan debt. Yes, 1.2 trillion. It is crazy. And this amount has tripled over the last 15 years. So since I pretty much graduated from high school, the amount has tripled. So when I was entering in college, the idea of getting student loans and things like that and being able to repay them and pay them off, the thought behind it is totally different than what it is now and what I'm educating my kids about student loans and student loan debt now. Okay, now, how did student loans even come about? So it all began, can you believe it or not, from the space race. So America was trying to be the innovators of getting to the moon, being in space and that kind of stuff, and Russia had kind of outpaced them. And when the US tried to step in and do some space exploration, it originally failed. So what happened is in 1957 they decided to the government started offering money for people who wanted to get STEM degrees in like science and national security, because they figured us not being able to explore space, it was a national security issue or whatever. So if you were interested in doing that, the government decided to give you loans. So also during that time, because this was in 1957, less than 8% of people actually had a bachelor's degree, and those that did were usually white males. And I always like to hear the history of stuff, and you have to really keep these things into perspective too, because what was it, Brown versus the Board of Education? I want to say that was in 1954. So we as black people were fighting just to get regular education as well, and this is what was going on. So like I said, I'll have to probably do another video that's a whole nother topic about that. Okay, so in 1957, that is when in 1958 is when Eisenhower signed the National Defense Act, and that was pretty much when he gave student loans for anyone who was interested in math, science, and engineering to help them with the space exploration. And basically the law also said that as long as you didn't decide to be a spy or a traitor to the country for this information and education, you could get the loan. Now, this program was later expanded in 1965 with President Johnson and became the Higher Education Act. And that pretty much created low interest loans for everyone, regardless of what you were studying. And it also introduced federal grants as well. Okay. Now, Once they started doing this, though, you do see where the US did take off in their space exploration and with NASA. So they saw that it did benefit. But, well, I'm not going to make it political, but you see they did it for their advantage or whatever. That was why they wanted to keep pace of what was going on in the country at that time. Now, also, they found that the benefits of people going to college was that there was less crime, there was less sickness, and also there was less people on welfare because all of those things would cost the government money. So they were encouraging people to go to college so that these things would not occur. Now, when it comes to the cost of tuition, back then the cost of tuition definitely was not as high as it is now, and the tuition cost has increased across the board, whether you go to a private school or a public school. However, the actual cost to students is a little bit different. So even though tuition has come up, what a student is actually paying when it comes to a private university or college, that has pretty much remained pretty stable throughout this time. But in regards to public schools, it has increased, and it actually has gone up. It has doubled in the past 20 years. And yeah, like, I've been out of school, well, I started my college career about 20 years ago, so that just goes to show, like, yeah, that is why I have some of the views I have today. The college I went to, and it's definitely changed. The landscape has definitely changed from when I went to school 20 years ago. And if you're listening to somebody who went to school before that, it has definitely changed. It's not the same. It's not the same game. We're not playing the same game that we were playing before, okay? So you just have to keep that in mind. I highly suggest you check out my video where I go into more details, where I say why my kids won't be going to college, that kind of thing, and I'll list out my reasons there. But anyway, let's get back to this topic. So now, most students, however, do earn their bachelor's degree from a public school. So you see 75% of students get a bachelor's degree from public school, and you see the cost for the student in public schools has doubled over the past 20 years. A lot of them attribute that to the recession that happened in 2008. So states are giving less funding to higher education or education in general. So yeah, with there being less funding for education, guess what? The actual student is now having to shoulder the burden of paying for school. Also, there was the Pell Grant. So in 1975, there was the Pell Grant. Hey, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Gold Digger Chick. I look forward to seeing you all over there. And as always, check out my Etsy shop. And coming soon, I am going to have some new merch for all of my fellow gold diggers. Okay, Pell Grants. So in 1975, there was the introduction of Pell Grants, and when they came about, they were able to cover 80% of tuition, room, and board. However, today, now a Pell Grant only covers 30% of tuition, room, and board. Also, more recently, there has been an increase in people going into graduate programs or graduate schools, and though Pell Grants or grants are not available to those if you are in graduate school. So also keep that in mind. So that is also contributing to the higher cost of student loan debt as well. Now, some of the consequences when you have a large amount of student loan debt may be that you may have to delay certain things. You may have to move in with your parents to help keep your costs low. You may have to delay buying a house, delay starting a family, that kind of thing. So these are some things that a lot of people, or some people who are graduating with large amounts of student loan debt, are having to think about and also are having to navigate as well. Now, since then, when you had a college degree, you could, back in the day, I think it was like in the 1950s is when or 1959 or something like that, was when they had the statistic. You could have a college degree, you could buy a home, you could start a family. Now, we're coupled with student loan debt, and also housing prices has increased, childcare costs has increased as well, and it just makes it harder for us to be able to do that. Also, back then, if you had a high school diploma, it was more easy for you to do those things as well. Now that is not the case due to the rising costs in housing and health and childcare. So it pretty much can kind of force some people to go into college as an option because they feel like they're not going to be able to get ahead with just the high school degree and be able to do all the things that they want to be able to accomplish. Now, when it comes to colleges, the way they are set up, they have a great business plan as their strategy, because pretty much they can advertise to people, recruit as many people as they want, or as many people as the college can hold. And as you can see, they're expanding and growing. Even my college has grown since I graduated, but they can recruit as many people as they want, knowing that they are going to get guaranteed money, because a lot of these people are going to qualify for student loans, and they don't have to worry about the fact that, okay, even if they go through the program and they don't find a job, it's not like they have to give them their money back. Or some people might not even finish and they've already got their money, and so they're making money, and there is, they don't have to guarantee a return on your investment, so to speak. So it kind of reminds me of the pyramid schemes. If you saw the first video I did where I reviewed the first episode where it talked about scams, check that out or whatever. And we talked about pyramid schemes where basically, you just recruit as many people as you want, and once you run out of people to recruit, the pyramid will fall apart. So it reminds me of a pyramid scheme, but colleges definitely have it made in terms of their business model when it comes to that. Now, there are also for-profit colleges, and with these, they are indebted to their investors, the people who are, investing into the college. So with that being said, they end up spending more money on recruitment, marketing, trying to get people into their program, and they end up spending less money on the educational aspect, the instructional aspect, and on the professors, because they are just trying to recruit people. And they play upon, I won't say people's fears, but upon people's vulnerabilities. So these are the schools that say, hey, you can go to night school, or we can work around your schedule, or you only have to come in, one day out of the week, or we do night classes, or you can get your degree online, that kind of stuff. So they're playing into people's vulnerabilities and marketing to people who otherwise might not have considered college as an option, because they're like, well, I have to work, I have to be able to support my family, I have to make some money or be able to support myself. And they're just like, yeah, we'll work with you, whatever your schedule is, whatever you need, we can work all around that just to get you in, just to recruit you in, and make it happen. And they may not necessarily deliver on their promise. And so just be mindful of that as well with some of these for-profit schools. Now, another statistic that they showed was that the for-profit colleges only make up 8% of colleges and universities, but they represent 30% of student loan defaults. So, which just kind of tells you, they are recruiting people who are probably not the best candidate to be in the school, or they're not really delivering on the promise and promising people these jobs and that kind of thing. Also, the default rate is higher for people who owe the least in student loans, as well as people of color. So that is why I did another video where I talked about they're possibly doing student loan forgiveness and that kind of thing. Now that is definitely up in the air right now, but it would definitely help benefit a lot of these people, because when I was looking at the docuseries, I want to say the highest amount that they showed in the little depiction was people who owed less than $10,000 in student loans. So I know at one point they were considering forgiving $10,000 worth of student loans, so that will probably help out a large amount of people. Now, because you don't want to default on your loan, because fun fact, I say fun fact sarcastically though, is that, did you know, well, I didn't know, that they can garnish your Social Security if you default on your loan. I honestly did not know that. That's crazy. Okay, you gonna pay these student loans. Now, keep in mind, there are options when it comes to student loan repayment to kind of help you prevent you from having to default on your student loans. However, some of these student loan servicers or student loan providers, they are not as forthcoming about letting you know your different options when it comes to repayment, like income-based repayment, that kind of thing. And the docuseries showed that for some of these student loan servicers, they would not tell you that these were your options unless you specifically asked about it. So that is why it's very important for you to know what some of your options are, and just ask them, what other options do I have when it comes to repaying my loan if you are having a hard time or a difficult time repaying it back. Thankfully, you know, for the student loan forbearance, for the federal student loans, that has definitely been helpful for me, and I'm sure it's been helpful and beneficial to a lot more other people as well. So just know your different options, but sometimes you might have to ask because they won't necessarily always tell you about it. Now, also, during the Obama administration, there was a law that was passed that was called the Gainful Employment Rule, and what that did, it prevented colleges from charging these exorbitant tuition fees if they couldn't guarantee that that's how much the student could make once they graduated and got a job in that field. So it pretty much prevented them, you know, from charging them, I don't know, $100,000, and maybe your job, the most you could possibly make was $50,000. So that is what that rule allowed for. However, with the past administration, they have reversed course on that particular rule or that particular legislation. So that is no longer in place to help protect some people who fall victim to some of these for-profit schools who charge crazy amounts of money for tuition. Now, the student loans is definitely a hot topic right now. Studies have shown that if they make community colleges and two-year colleges tuition free, that eventually the cost that we would incur from that will eventually balance out in about 12 years, and then it would start trending upward of, you know, them getting their money back. Also, it shows that if some student loans were canceled, like some part of the student loan debt was canceled, it can generate an extra 80 to 100 billions of dollars for the economy, because if those people are not having to spend money paying their student loans, then they can stimulate the economy and build the economy that way from that. But that was the overview of what was included in that particular series. So let me know. Y'all already know I have strong opinions about the student loan situation in college in general, and I owe a lot in student loans. But let me know what you thought. Definitely check out the docuseries where it talks about student loans, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section. As always, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on IG at Gold Digger Chick. All right, that's all I have for now. Take care.